to our Monday night show. My name is Lori. I'm part of Women's Health on the Go, and tonight I'm so excited. We've got my friend Millie back on the show tonight from Millie Elia Wellness. We are going to be talking about breast cancer survivorship, breast cancer prevention, and we're going to be talking about nutrition and all this kind of fun stuff. And you know, if you've watched me and Millie before, we just keep going and we talk about lots of great things when it comes to women's health and just taking care of ourselves. If you are new here, please say hello. If you have any questions at any time during the show, please make sure that you just put them in the comment section. We will get to your questions, no doubt. Even if it's on the show afterwards, please make sure that you definitely do it. We will definitely be able to answer your questions for you. So share, comment. But you know, I'm going to bring our guest Millie on in a second. But as you know, in the beginning of all of my shows, what do? I do our medical disclaimer. All these crazy things we've got to do, right, everybody? So here we go. All material provided in this video is provided for information and educational purposes only and is not intended to substitute the advice of your healthcare professional. It's not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. If we happen to mention, because you know I like my essential oils and my herbs and all that kind of stuff, just making sure that none of these statements in this video have been evaluated by the FDA and we're not making any medical claims. The International Federation of Aromatherapists does not recommend the use of essential oils internally unless you're under the care of a medical provider that is certified as aromatherapist. And if you're breastfeeding or you are pregnant, please make sure that you talk to your healthcare provider before you do anything. Okay, everybody? All right, so with further ado, I am going to bring over Millie. Hey, Millie, how are you?
Hi, Lori.
So, please help me welcome Millie. Millie, if you have been watching the show, you'll know that Millie has been on. We've talked about the pillars of life and of health in the past. She has 17 years experience as an oncology nurse practitioner, and she's branched out on her own to form Millie Elia Wellness, where she helps women with breast cancer survivorship and to help navigate their care and help them through the process. And her passion comes from her sister. So welcome, Millie. I'm so happy to have you again. You know I love having you on this show.
It's always great to be here.
So before we get started, just for the people, you know, the people who have seen you before, you know, they kind of remember who you are. But for our viewers that are new, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are. Where did your passion come from? Just so they can get a little background on you.
Sure. So I've been a nurse since 1993, and I've always worked in oncology. Bone marrow transplant, radiation oncology, medical oncology, and in 2001 I became a nurse practitioner, and I have been working in institutions for all of this time, and then in 2012 my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she chose not to invite everybody in on the experience right away. She was a very private person. No, she wasn't married, no kids. And but we were very close. And being that I was fortunate enough to have knowledge as a medical professional in the world of oncology, she felt secure inviting me into her first doctor's appointments, and I really walked her through the process. Unfortunately, in 2014, she passed away, but it was really an eye-opening experience for me because I went from being the clinician to seeing the other side of the table, so to speak, with my sister. And there were points where she was overwhelmed and didn't necessarily understand everything that was being told to her. So it was really valuable for me to sort of help her with that. And there were times when I had to really help her advocate for herself. So once she passed and I felt that I wanted to leave the institution and start to work in the community is when I decided that Elia Wellness would be born. And I thought back on my experience with my sister, and I knew that I wanted to support people in the community the same way that I had supported her, that it was something that it was valuable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so here I am right now. I was open to helping all cancer patients, and I've really come back full circle and have narrowed my focus to breast cancer survivors. So I'm out speaking in public. I'm on Lori's show.
Yay! It's awesome. I love having you on the show because you have a lot of great experience. You also have a lot of great information. So I'm really happy that you're here. And so let's get kind of started on where are we going to go tonight?
Yeah, I really felt passionate about this topic because I'm actually presenting this at a Whole Foods next month, but it's breast cancer awareness starts from before you have the disease. We all know that, but I don't think we all completely understand the statistics that we're talking about in terms of cancer in general, and breast cancer being one of them. So 40% of individuals in the United States will develop cancer at some point in their life. We know this. This is a statistical fact.
Now, wait, is this all general cancers, or we just...
Not all general cancer.
Yeah.
40% of us are going to get some form of cancer. But interestingly enough, only 5 to 10% of those cancers are due to genetic defects. So I'm going to say that again. Only 5 to 10% of cancers, of all cancers, is due to genetic defects. So where am I going with this? That means 90 to 95% is other factors like toxins, exposure to toxins, diet, environment, lifestyle. So this is huge because once you understand that, you started the process of beginning to empower yourself. One of the underlying factors of not just breast cancer, but all chronic diseases is chronic inflammation. Mm-hmm. So chronic inflammation is, let's say, cancer's best friend.
Yes.
And when we start talking about prevention, so I'll start with prevention, we know that that prolonged inflammation does damage at the cellular level, and it begins to weaken your immune system. And in doing so, you do become at greater risk for developing cancer. So how does lifestyle play into this chronic inflammation? And inflammation, I just want to say, is actually fundamentally needed for life. Like if you get injured, there's an inflammatory process that your body needs in order to heal. But when we're talking about chronic, then it becomes a problem. Some lifestyle factors that play into this are diets that are high in fat, sugar, refined carbs. And so diet is a huge part of it, but I would be lying if I said, well, that's it, change your diet and you're golden. No, there's more than that. It's a sedentary lifestyle, and it's chronically elevated stress levels. And so there is a biochemical reaction that happens when you have chronically elevated stress levels that I'll get into in a little bit. And we know, the sitting disease, it's been linked to several cancers like colon cancer and obesity, which is another risk factor. So we'll get into all of those things. But these are 3 points I just want to talk about today: the diet, the sedentary lifestyle, and the chronically elevated stress levels. So we know that with breast cancer survival, there are links between maintaining a healthy body weight, being physically active, eating foods containing fiber. We need a lot of fiber, and soy. And soy is very controversial, but there's a difference between, the sort of additive soy that you might find in a box of processed foods and fermented organic type soy, which has actually been found to be helpful for breast cancer prevention. And a lower intake of fat, particularly saturated fats. And I just want to say this. There's a huge difference between having a cheeseburger and an avocado. So the avocado is saturated fat, but love your avocado. Like, yes. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just be able to differentiate this. And Lori, you know I love the blue zones.
Yes.
I just gotta give a shout out to my blue zones, right? Because
Yes.
it pulls it all in.
So wait, before we go any further, just remind everybody, for those who don't, what are the blue zones?
I was just about to
Okay,
say
good.
blue zones. So researchers for many years now have been studying where people live the longest and are the healthiest, and where they have the highest quality of life. And so after, how many decades of research, they have found that there are areas in the world, I think there's about 7 of them, I have to look at my notes, and they're in Japan, they're in Italy, they're in California, right here in the good old USA, and so they have these different areas, and the people there have particular qualities of life that are similar. So they eat a mainly whole foods, plant-based diet. They're active from the moment they get up until the moment they get to sleep. And that's regardless of age. Like, they maintain very active lifestyles.
Please come get the cat out of here.
And so this includes walking, bicycling to your neighbor. Like, I live in Yorktown, New York, and to get to the grocery store, most people are driving because, it's that's what we do in Yorktown, New York. But over, in these other places, they're walking and they don't mind. They have a good quality of life in terms of contentment. So the community really holds every member very valuable. And so with that comes a reduced stress perception. Because if you feel valued, if you feel like your work has a purpose and is honored, if you feel like you're part of a community and people are supporting you within that community, suddenly life looks a whole lot different, right?
Yep.
So, and then they're very active. They're outdoors a lot. So, they're breathing in that fresh air. They're gardening. They're out there, and their entire systems are just very different than here, than in Western culture, except for California. So these were just some of the common denominator, but they live a very long, happy, and fulfilled life. And so I'm going to start with the diet as the main thing. So obesity has become like tobacco, and I hope that kind of puts you in the mind frame that I'm talking about. Obesity in this country is an absolute epidemic, and so everybody knows that you're looking at cardiac disease and you're looking at type 2 diabetes, but it's also a very high link for cancer in particular. Okay.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
In particular, when you're talking about breast cancer, because although there are premenopausal cases of cancer, obviously it's still primarily postmenopausal, and those extra 10 pounds when you're postmenopausal can be the difference maker. And we're not always talking 10 pounds; we're often talking a lot more.
Yeah.
So. We see better breast cancer survival rates for women who eat less fat and who choose to have much more vegetables and fruits. And I specifically say vegetables first because you want more vegetables than you want fruit. But you want a whole lot more of that than the rest of the stuff. So the survival, we're talking about... It's okay. So we're not just talking about prevention, but we're also talking about survivorship after, if you've had treatment. Just to throw out the one thing that everybody talks about when we're talking about, obesity rates and what's one thing that people do. And we eat a lot of sugar, right? Lots and lots of sugar. Sugar.
Sugar is so hard to get rid of in your diet as well, because if you really look at every product in the food store, there's sugar in almost everything.
Right.
And it's very hard to be sugar free.
Right. So when you talk about a mainly whole foods, plant-based diet, you've naturally, by choosing that kind of food plan, have reduced those, because it's the added sugars that are the problem. So some people say all sugars are the same. When I eat a banana or something like that, what's the difference? It's got sugar. No, your body doesn't metabolize this refined white sugar the same way that it does the ones that are naturally found in produce.
Yep.
It just doesn't. So we're talking about additive sugar, but it's powder. So people compare it to cocaine, literally. Um, the amounts that we consume it, and I'm not saying, please, life is meant to be enjoyed. So I'm not saying never have that piece of birthday cake. Never go out and indulge at any point in your life. I'm not saying that. But in the amounts that we typically include it in our diet, it's a toxin.
It is.
And I can't say that word strongly enough because our livers can only handle so much before it can't, handle anymore. It's been shown in studies to be more addictive than cocaine in animal studies.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But I've also read some research too where the link between sugar and cancer, like the cancer just loves sugar.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely true. So the cancer, once it's starting to grow, is going to absorb as much sugar. It's sugar hungry. Mm-hmm. It's also, going back to what I had originally started talking about, highly inflammatory. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this conversation tonight is about chronic inflammation and the factors that lead up to it. So sugar is highly inflammatory. It's a major cause of obesity. And like you were mentioning, it's hidden in these prepackaged and pre-made foods. Yep. So the World Health Organization states that people should have a max of, it's either 25 or 26, I can't remember, grams of added sugar a day. So that comes out to about 6 teaspoons of added sugar. Mm-hmm. Just to throw one quick example, skim milk, 8 ounces, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, has about 11 grams.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's really, it's, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have skim milk,
right.
But just be aware whenever you're taking something in that there's a certain amount of sugar in it.
Yep.
So basically you want to take out the stuff that isn't helping, like the sugars, the refined carbs, the processed foods. And then there are those of us like myself who remove gluten. And I'm not getting into a controversy if that's, gluten is for some people a very hot topic. If you don't need to be gluten, you don't need to be gluten free. I need to be gluten free. My kids need to be gluten free. We just feel better. And so you want to remove those things and then add in the things that do serve us, like the whole foods, anything that doesn't need a label, like eat the rainbow. Go into that farmer's market.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Go with curiosity. Try things that maybe you haven't tried before. I mean, we're lucky to live in a place where we get imports from all over the world. But try to eat what's in season. When you're eating locally, eat what's in season because those foods have the highest phytonutrients. And this is another thing. When you're talking about diet, think anti-inflammatory. And one of the best known anti-inflammatory diets, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I'm just using an example, is the Mediterranean diet.
I was thinking the same thing when I'm like, I know she's going to say Mediterranean diet.
Right. It's been the most studied, and it's not for everybody, but I'm just using it as an example. So the olive oil, you feel free to use the olive oil. Plenty of nuts, seeds, legumes, fish, and if you really don't like those fillets, go ahead. The clams, the mussels, oysters, all of that stuff. It's good stuff. We need the omega-3s. Great for our moods. Great for our health. And here's the thing, lots of herbs. Yeah. I don't know why we're herb shy in this country, but we are. Like, we use it as a pretty garnish.
Yeah.
Piece of parsley or whatever. But no, these herbs actually are powerful anti-inflammatories. So use it as food, like really combine it into, make it an ingredient, a part of a main ingredient in your foods. Some really fantastic herbs in the world of cancer is turmeric, which is actually what
very anti-inflammatory.
Right, it's curcumin in the turmeric that's the active property.
Yep.
Black pepper, oregano, powerful. I think even in essential oils, oregano is very.
It's like nature's antibiotic.
Right, exactly. Rosemary, ginger. So I come from a culture where if I grew up and I had a cold, my father would make ginger root tea, and I can tell you that after I drank that ginger root tea, the bacteria were horrified and ran.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good.
But it was good. It was really good. I have ginger now. I put ginger in a lot of my foods that I cook now. Chili peppers, bay leaf, thyme. Use these things and use them in abundance.
Yep. Rosemary is also really good for like dementia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm like, I think I just lost you there for a minute. Oh, no. Rosemary is really, really good for like dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. There's research that shows that even if you have a family history and you're at risk, start cooking with it. Do what you can with rosemary. That's another. I love herbs. I love herbal medicine because all of these things have great medicinal properties and they make your food taste awesome.
Right.
Why would you not put that in your food?
I think that people have gotten used to, they've sort of trained their tongue to get used to the fast food flavors and just easy peasy microwave, massively high in salt.
I was going to say, and salt as well. That's another thing.
That's another thing, right? So when you're, home-cooked meals are becoming more and more of a thing of the past. Most people are too busy to do a whole lot of home cooking, and you really, in societies where that's basically what's done, you see less obesity. People are much more mindful about what they're putting in their bodies. So that takes, especially for people who, I'm just going to segue a little bit into treatment. So people that are having breast cancer treatment are often too tired.
Yeah.
And they have changes like taste changes or GI upset. And so what I recommend is meal planning because I still want them to have those home-cooked meals. So plan in advance and for times when they just can't eat, one recommendation I have is putting broth in an ice tray and being able to pop one of those out and just sip on it. But having that home-cooked meal is just as important when you're down and out as it is when you're up and around. Oh, yeah. The difference is meal planning. So sticking with obesity, we know that there are 14 types of cancers related to obesity, and breast cancer is just one of those. The other thing about obesity is the sedentary lifestyle that we were talking about. So being sedentary can really just, we all know, your weight balloons up. And obesity is linked to inflammation. Exercising has an actual physiological effect on the body. It regulates our hormones. So I think I did a talk once where you have your insulin levels that become dysfunctioned. They become elevated with certain things. I think in that talk it was sleep deprivation. Mm-hmm. But there are other things that maneuver our hormone levels, and exercise is one of those. So it brings down your insulin and your estrogen, and without it, we've seen increases in cancer development, such as breast and colon. It also improves your immune system. So going back to what I said, having that chronic inflammation lowers your immune system, leaving you more susceptible to getting cancer. So the flip side of that is exercise lowers your inflammation. And it keeps it sounds like a little thing, but it's actually a huge thing. It keeps your GI tract moving. So you're excreting those toxins and waste. We know from colon cancer that that's obviously a plus, but it's not too, it's not too far thinking to know that that's actually healthy for all of us. You really need to have, people need to pay more attention to what's happening in their gut. Chronic constipation, people think it's normal to go 2, maybe 3 times a week, and,
I got that funny book. What is your poo telling you? You ever see that funny book?
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
I think I have it. I think I have it right up there. And it talks about making sure you look in the toilet. What's going on in there? What does it look like? Because that even just the way that your poo looks can tell you what's going on.
Absolutely. There's the Bristol stool test, which I think anybody can go online. It breaks it down.
Look, what is your poo telling you?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but it's so important, right?
It is.
We're learning a lot more about microbes in the gut and how they interact with us and keep us healthy. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and sometimes people think I have some people that are like, yeah, I go once a week, and I'm like, what? No, you have to be. I mean, they say that you should be going more than once a day, right? Say 1 to 2 times a day. I mean,
God bless the person that's going there. That's what they say. Yeah. I mean, before I realized that I had a gluten sensitivity, going twice a week was my norm. I didn't know any better. Yeah. So now I realize that no, that absolutely is not the norm, and I understand what the problem was now. And but I think a lot of people just need to pay more attention to what's going on with their gut. It's just as important as anything else.
They're talking a lot about the microbiome of the gut.
Exactly.
And what? Talking about just going to get a little bit off subject, and because I just did this on one of my shows recently, because I'm doing this holistic news, and I found how we have bacteria in our gut, we have bacteria in the vagina. Well, they did this research on women who had breast cancer and looking at the microbiome of their breasts, and there's this theory now that just saying that each system in our body has its own microbiome that's going on, and how important bacteria really, I mean, as much as it can cause us to be sick, there's lots of good bacteria that keeps us healthy, even in our breasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I read about that, and it's absolutely true. And so people might, I don't know if certain people maybe get a little skeeved by thinking, oh, what, these bacteria live in... Yeah, you have my boobs. Alone. You're not, none of us are actually... We have these whole ecosystems in our body. And when everything is running the way it should be, these bacteria are favorable to our health.
Yes.
So we want to keep them healthy. Yeah. And it's when we lose that balance that the bad bacteria begin to overtake and you start to feel sick.
Yeah.
And so that's we could go on about that topic all day because it's fascinating, right?
It is. When I read that research about the microbiome of my breast, I'm like, what? I'm like, this is so amazing. Because I already, I'm always talking about, the good vagina bacteria, I'm always telling to my patients, but never did I think that I would actually be talking about now, the microbiome of our breasts as well. It's so fascinating to me. It really, really is.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So back to being sedentary. So we know that with survivorship, there was a significant increase in cancer mortality with those people they did this meta-analysis study, and so it was significant enough where they saw people who were very, very sedentary had an increased mortality. So it's super important for prevention, and recurrence just as important, if not more. So we're going to move on to chronic stress now. So I talked about the diet and sedentary lifestyle, chronically elevated stress. So stress is a part of life. Like inflammation, it gets us up in the morning, it gets us doing what we need to, keeps our blood pressure where it should be. We need stress, a certain amount.
Need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But only a little bit.
Like a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So like inflammation, when it's chronically elevated, and by chronically I mean months and even years. So imagine that you're going for months and years of fight or flight. You're stuck in this fight or flight mode. Your body's pumping out the cortisol because it thinks it's about to fight a saber-toothed tiger. You cannot sustain that in the long run without systems beginning to be compromised. So in MD Anderson, so nobody will say that stress equals cancer. Nobody's going to say that. But what they do know is, for example, in MD Anderson, they have come out saying that there's no doubt that prolonged chronic stress promotes makes your body more hospitable to cancer. So that's a huge statement.
Now, who is that person?
MD Anderson. It's a hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's. I'm sorry. I assume everybody knows my little oncology.
You're like, hello. Like, why don't you know that?
It's a big hospital. But what they say, it's when they say something, it's like when the Mayo Clinic says something. It's significant. So they know that it absolutely makes our body much more hospitable to getting cancer. So when people are chronically stressed, what's something that we all do? Or do we go and say, geez, my God, I could really have a celery stick right now after the day I had at work?
No, I go, I need a drink.
So chronic stress puts us into a primitive eating mindset, right? So we're much more likely to grab those refined carbs that we were talking about, those sugary added sugars and all of this stuff. And so it plays into other aspects of our life as well. It affects our ability to get sleep. And we've talked about how you need a certain amount of sleep to maintain your immune system. You're sleep deprived over time, your immune system is going to suffer. So all of these things are interlaced. It's wellness is not just one thing, it's multiple things. But re-examining those different areas is really important, and not dismissing one of greater value than being lesser value than the other. So really pay attention to your stress level. If you need to talk to a professional psychiatrist or a psychologist to just help teach you healthy ways to manage your stress, it's not something to shy away from. Mm-hmm. Something popular now is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. They're having a lot of success with that in helping people learn coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Meditation and yoga, these have been proven time and time again in research studies to affect your brain's reaction to stressful events. Something absolutely worth doing, trying to find time in your day, even if that means getting up 10 minutes earlier. 10 minutes before you start your day to put yourself, don't pick up your phone, don't jump out of bed, just sort of set the mood for the day can make a huge difference. If you can do it twice a day at the end of the day, even more power to you.
I wake up and, to me, I wiggle my toes, I scratch my head, and I'm like, it's going to be an awesome day. Because once you put that out to the energy, put it out to the universe, they say, and it's going to come back, and, I try to do that in the morning.
Is so, and people, you have to believe that you can empower yourself. Otherwise, nothing sticks. Nothing works. If you don't believe that you can champion yourself, then there's no point. But once you believe that and you embrace that, you can find ways to make differences. Setting your intention for the day. Before I get out of bed, I do a gratitude, all the things I'm grateful for. Yeah. And every day it's the same things, but it shifts my emotions from that kind of groggy, God, don't talk to me kind of state, to a state where I can get out of bed and be a calm person. So whatever works for you. I try to tell people, look at it like you're dialing it down, like you're literally dialing down the volume on a radio. And what helps you do that? Deep breathing, maybe journaling. We talked about meditating, yoga. For some people, it's gardening. For some people, it's walking in the woods. Whatever helps you to dial that down is worth it. Make time for it.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so we've hit on our three main lifestyle factors for chronic inflammation. Is there any questions or?
There's no questions, but we love Hillsborough Facebook group. It says coffee works good too, getting us up in the morning. Which I know that I get up and I do that, like I wiggle my toes in the bed, just try to get myself up. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to have a great day. But then, yes, I do need to have a cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I need my coffee. But it makes a difference in my mood, you know?
I think it absolutely does. I mean, because there's been times when, you know, I've been in life where I've been sad and whatever. And then, like, I just, like, say, you know, you read it and you're like, okay, when I wake up this morning, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to see how my day ends up being. And I always say, whether it's placebo or it works, because, you know, some people are like, oh, that's kind of woo-woo stuff. And I'm like, well, you know, if you do it and it works, it works. I mean, how awesome is that? And you know what? It really does, I think, put you in a mood, you know, that just says, you know what, it's going to be a great day. We're just going to keep rolling. We're going to be, you know, great. We're going to smile. We're going to keep going. And it just starts your day off running off really good. So I definitely think that I mean, it's very beneficial.
Right.
I think, though, also, as much as we're kind of talking about breast cancer and, you know, survivorship and stuff too, I think that a lot of these things that we talk about, like even when we talked about the pillars of life and a lot of the things on the show that, you know, I talk about, a lot of these things can apply to everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I think that, you know, sometimes I see things and I'm like, well, my show must be boring because I say the same thing over and over again, no matter what the situation is. I'm always talking about nutrition, diet, you know, getting good sleep, getting exercise, getting rid of stress. I mean, it's
right. There's certain fundamental, basic aspects to life that we overlook. We're very quick to overlook now in our fast-paced world. But we're also living in a time where chronic disease is killing everybody.
It is.
So is it worth reflecting on? I'm kind of thinking that it does, because we've tried to ignore all that stuff and we're dying. Like, people are sicker than they've ever been before.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, we, especially here in the United States, you know, the amount of people that are coming into the clinics and are sick and are getting cancer and getting diabetes, you know, and heart disease. I mean, it's very, very prevalent. And I think that definitely if you're watching this show, absolutely, you know, I know we're talking about breast cancer and breast cancer survivorship, and I definitely think that absolutely applies. But I think, too, no matter what you're going through, these are great principles that you can apply to your life to help you be healthy and happy.
Right. And one of the things that I really that I've taken to talking about, to kind of link it together and give it kind of a more catchy look to other people, is talking about how underlying it all is chronic inflammation. Because it becomes a whole food plant-based diet. Oh, yeah, you know, eat more vegetables, yeah. You know, get up and move. Oh, yeah, no, I watch TV too much. And it all becomes, I've heard. But the minute you start to tell them your body's inflamed, you're having inflammation, and it's going to take you down this and this and this path, I've noticed people tend to listen a little bit better.
Yeah. I think also people don't realize that cancer takes a while for it to kind of develop. You know what I mean? It's not something that you wake up and you have cancer. Well, no, the things that you've been doing probably for the past 5-10 years, that's what got you cancer. Like, you know, like it has, because as you talked before about the whole genetics and about, you know, I've been reading a lot about epigenetics, like, and how, you know, our environment and what we do can really affect our bodies, and we have a big influence on it by the things that we do.
Huge.
You know, and people don't realize that. And it's like, you know, yeah, okay, you maybe have some genetic kind of component in it, but, what have you been doing for the past 5-10 years?
You know,
You've been sitting on the couch eating, hoo-hoos and,
right.
not exercising. Well, has not helped you, you're feeding, all those bad cells, that are just going, woohoo, I'm having a good time. Here I go.
The thing is, you could look at the genetics and say, well, X number of people in my family have had it. This is my destiny. But again, science, we know from science, only 5 to 10% are going to have that solely due to genetics. So the rest of us have these keyholes. And if because we decide that other things are just not as important, there's no value to making time to exercise, there's no value in switching your flavors to a more whole foods plant. If there's no value in that, then you've literally taken the key out of your pocket and begun to insert it and starting to turn the key on your genetics.
Oh, absolutely. And I think even also, I also think there is a genetic part for some people, but don't say, I'm just going to end up with it. Because I think that we also have the ability to be like, you know what? Screw that. Screw my family history. I'm not going to. I'm going to do everything I can possible. I mean, sometimes it still happens, but I think that...
And even if it does happen, the quality of your life, it's not like one and done, okay, I got it now, oh, that's it. How you go through the process and how you restore yourself after the process is equally important. Quality of life. So if you're conscious, before having it, maybe your body will be a little bit fundamentally more strengthened to go through the process. If you take up afterwards and really nurture yourself in all the right ways, maybe restoring won't be so hard for you. And we have to remember that all these things play with our moods. So self-care is a great way to keep yourself from falling into that deep, dark hole of depression. Care for yourself the way you would care for a newborn.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Millie, you and I can sit here and talk all night. We can definitely sit here and talk all night. So I think that we talked about a lot of great things. Thank you again so much for coming on. For people who want to, learn a little bit more about Millie, talk to her or anything, I'm going to paste her Facebook page. So please go over there and, like it, subscribe to it. Let's see, do it. Yeah, there we go.
And can I just remind people the 2 events I have going up? So I'm going to be doing a talk in Whole Foods in Yonkers on Saturday, the 24th, and expanding on the topic that I talked about today. So, feel free to come. It's $10 admission, $5 is going to Gilda's Club.
Gilda.
Yeah. And I have I'm sort of revamping my services, and I'm doing informational interviews for anyone that's that's a breast cancer survivor. I would so appreciate if anybody would contact me. It's a 1-hour interview over the phone, not heavy questions, just free-flowing, open-ended questions. And that way I can develop services that are really fill in the gaps that people find living in the community where they feel like they could be better supported. So,
I think that's a really good thing because, I've been thinking through things in my life, and people who are going through those kind of things, if I can provide them, listen, I've been there, I've done it, this is what was going on for me, and this is, this may be, this part was missing for me, and I could have really, really used that. So I think that, if you know someone who is a breast cancer survivor and is willing to talk to Millie, please have them share this, share her information. I know that she's already told me it's private, it's confidential. It's not like she's going to put it on a big billboard, anywhere. But just think that you can help another person who's had breast cancer and help them get and navigate through the system a lot better. So, please, if you know somebody, please have them reach out to Millie. I'm also going to put Millie's website as well. So if you want to go to her website, check a little bit more of that out. And then of course, also her Facebook. Like her Facebook, follow her. She's got lots of good information on there. I follow her. So make sure that you do that as well. So thank you so much, Millie. I know that I'm going to be having you back again because you're like my favorite guest. So I know that I'll be having you back on. Thank you so much for coming on. And I hope to see you soon again. So for everyone else, thank you so much for watching our show tonight. I hope that you got a lot of great value and a lot of great information from our show tonight. Please make sure that you share this. You know, the further this goes out, the happier that I am. It makes my heart goes pitter-patter. My job here is to inform you and empower you with more information about how you can take care of your body. So I am going to be on vacation next week, so I'm going to be coming back the following week. So, but you know what? I'm sure maybe where I am, I will pop on and I'll say hello to everybody. So I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Take care, everybody. Oh, hold on. Now we're going to go bye.